Greetings, students. Today we're going to talk about Hinduism, which is the dominant religion practiced in India. First, we're going to define it. Hinduism is a set of beliefs and a way of life practiced by people in Southeast Asia. Hinduism is very diverse. There's many different ways of practicing it. There's many different gods, many different beliefs. Some parts of Hinduism focus on certain practices, while other parts focus on others, and some focus on one god as opposed to the other. But the core of it is a set of beliefs and a set of similar gods that are used by a group of people in the same geographical region. Okay, let's talk about some of these gods. Hindus believe in many gods. They are what are called polytheistic, although they wouldn't necessarily say that, but outsiders would look at their religion and say they're polytheistic in that they believe that there are many gods. And we could talk about many of them, but for the purposes of this, we're going to focus on just a few of the important ones. One of the most important gods is Brahma. Brahma is an important god in Hindu religion, but it's a god that's not worshipped. This god is believed to be the creator god. As you can see right there, the god has 4 heads and 4 arms. And this god brought everything into existence. This god is Shiva. Shiva is called the destroyer, but is actually can be kind of a good character in the Hindu religion. It's not necessarily just because he's called the destroyer doesn't necessarily mean he is a bad guy. A couple things about the image of him below. A lot of the pictures of Hindu gods are symbolic, meaning that the image means something beyond just how it looks. So, for example, the third eye there, right below the leaf, is representative of the idea of wisdom. Okay. The drum represents the fact that it's believed that Shiva is the source of all language. And the 3 rings of the trident is the gold spear on the left-hand side of the image. Those 3 rings represent creation, sustenance, and destruction. So in the images that you see of Hindu gods, you start to understand what they represent, what their different powers or what their different abilities are. This is Vishnu. Vishnu is another god that we see in Hinduism. Vishnu is called the preserver. And what Vishnu does is Vishnu appears as different living beings on earth. Sometimes Vishnu has appeared as an animal, and other times Vishnu has appeared as a human, sometimes a lowly human, and then sometimes a human at the top of the caste system, like a Brahmin. So that's a little bit about the gods. It's not quite that expansive, but it gives you a brief picture of what some of the Hindu gods look like. And now let's talk about the way they live. So each caste has their own way of practicing their religion. And there are a few key beliefs that underlie all Hindu practice. One is the idea of dharma. Dharma means something similar to religion. It's kind of a way of life. It's often called the way. And dharma is essentially someone's ethical duty or how they should live their lives. And if you remember from our presentation in our previous class about the caste system, each different member, or each different caste rather, has a different set of ethical duties that they must live by. You remember that the Sudras were not required to practice any type of religion or have any ethical requirements, whereas a member of the Brahmin has a series of ethical requirements that they must do in order to be following the Dharma or walking the Dharma. Now, a word that rhymes with Dharma is karma, and karma is something that's often used by people to mean you get what comes to you. And so this little image here below karma is kind of representative of that. You can see he's pouring the trash on the person across from him while trash is being poured right behind them. And so it's kind of the idea that you get what's coming to you. You know, you see the person cutting off people in traffic, and eventually that person's going to get into a car accident. That's the basic idea. The basic idea is that karma actually means actions or deeds. And the idea is that for every action one takes, there are effects. Now, these effects typically happen after death. Now, if you live your life as a very unethical human, you will be reborn, which is the next idea, reborn as something lower along the hierarchy system that is life on Earth. Now, undergirding both dharma and karma is the idea that the whole point of living ethically is so you can move up the hierarchy system or up the caste system until you get to the Brahman and then eventually to nirvana. Now, the idea is that after you die, you either move up or down the order of life forms based on how you lived. So if you lived really well, you might come back as a member of a higher caste. Whereas if you lived a very poor life, poor meaning unethical, you didn't follow the rules, you could come back as a lower person. You could come back as untouchable or even lower as an animal life form. And so that's what motivates people to live ethically in their lives, is the idea that what they do in their lifetime will affect them in the next life. And so a lot of what we think, and by we, I mean people who are not practicing Hinduism, which is not necessarily all my listeners, but speaking as someone who's not a Hindu, um, there are other belief systems where what you do in this life has an immediate effect in this life. But that's not the way Hinduism works in India, because if you understand, it's mixed up with the caste system. And in the caste system, you can't move out of your caste. So the only way to move out of your caste is to behave well in this lifetime within your caste. And then after, in the next life, you get a chance to move up. So, like I said before, this is how you change your caste system. Live a good life, and you'll get a higher caste in the next. So this is just part one of our series on Hinduism. Thank you for listening.